Say it, subprime. You know you shouldn't have taken that loan. If it sounded too good to be true, it probably was. Tens of thousands of American families went for the appetizing bait, but didn't realize that literal loan sharks were swimming in the water. Now we have a $700 billion question to answer. Should we print more money, taxing Main Street to bail out Wall Street, or suffer on the verge of collapse? Tonight on Garrard McClendon Live, America, you got cheated by America. Welcome to Garrard McClendon Live. We've been hoodwinked, bamboozled. You've been run amok, cheated, swindled. You've been blindfolded thinking that 12% interest on a home was a good deal. At least I'll get in the house. Legal loan sharks, note the oxymoron, swam into shallow waters to devour your money, respect, and your credit score. But now America is paying for its sins. Joining me now by phone is Congressman Jesse L. Jackson. Congressman, how are you today?
Hi, Gerard. Thanks for having me on.
Man, you know, let's get right into this. You know, a 228 to 205 vote. It looks like we're back to the drawing board again here. Congressman, you voted no for this bailout. Why did you vote no?
Well, Gerard, there are a couple of scenarios at the top of your program that I think are worthy of noting. Mildred Howell on 70th and Yates is a widower. She's 64 years old. And at 64, her husband passed after having lived in their home for 40 years. She went to a bank to get a loan. She sought a reverse mortgage to take some of the equity out of her home to bury her husband. The bank itself directed Miss Howell to a subprime lender. At 64 years old, she is now facing foreclosure because she ended up getting equity out of this process that ultimately put her home in foreclosure. And so any bill that passes the Congress that seeks to bail out banks who purchase mortgage securities, I am more confident than ever that until this bill ensures that Mildred Howell and Sandra Bullock and other people who are similarly situated are back in their homes, that their equity is restored, is a bad bill for America. I'm not interested in bailing out Wall Street until Miss Howell and Miss Bullock and other similarly situated widows, and there are thousands of them across the country, are protected by this bill. This is a bad bill, a bad piece of legislation for America. It's not enough just to say they got hoodwinked and run amok. There was some dishonesty and some deception here, and they need to be made whole.
Now, Congressman, give me one or two or maybe even three bullet points on what you would change to vote yay on this. What turns Congressman Jesse Jackson's vote from a nay to a yay? Give me one or two reasons.
Number one, greater homeowner protection. Some bill in some form, obviously, is going to pass the Congress of the United States. But I want to make sure that Miss Howell and Miss Bullock, both similarly situated, are made whole. Number two, this is the fourth quarter. We need some kind of economic stimulus that ensures that low-income housing energy assistance programs are protected so people can pay their heat and their basic bills during this period, so they can have a decent-sized turkey, a decent-sized Christmas, putting Christmas presents under the tree. And quite frankly, Gerard, the mother of all bailouts is still in front of us. That is when Ford and GM and all the big auto manufacturers come back in the first quarter of next year and say, hey, we didn't do what we were supposed to do in the fourth quarter. We are facing hundreds of thousands of layoffs. And unless the government does something about it, we're going to shut down some of our plants all across this country.
You know, Congress.
Go ahead, sir.
You know, Congressman, let's move forward, because do you think some of these votes by your fellow congressmen and congresswomen were politically motivated? I'm seeing a split decision on the Republican and the Democratic sides. I'm looking at Melissa Bean voting yay. I'm looking at Danny Davis voting yay. I'm looking at Gutierrez voting yay, and Jesse Jackson voting nay, along with Congressman Rush. What's going on?
Well, let me tell you this. I'm not going to question their integrity, but what I am going to say is this. I've got 12 more votes. we've got enough votes to pass this bill. If you give me greater homeowner protections for the average ordinary American who lost their home through no fault of their own, and there are millions of them, I'll give you 12 votes. You can pass your bill, but I'm sure Mrs. Bullock and Mrs. Howell will be reinstated to where they were at 64 years old. They are not reentering the workforce, and I'm not going to stand around and watch them after 40 years of working to make this nation what it is. I'm not going to watch them enter into homeless shelters simply because their member of Congress didn't stand up and do what was right. Now, I'm not speaking for anybody else. I'm just telling you what it's going to take to move this bill.
I think it's great that you're personalizing the issue, because when we can put names and faces on issues like this, it makes a lot more sense, because there's a human effect. When we see Wall Street on TV, we don't feel the human aspect of it, and by you putting names on these particular situations, it's human. Congressman, what's the deal with the Senate voting? Is this a rumor? Is this true? What's going on?
Well, I can't speak for the Senate. I'm not over there. Maybe one day someone will put me over there, but that ain't what I'm focused on right now. What we need to do before Congress recesses, today we're on a Jewish holiday. We'll be on Jewish holiday until Wednesday. Congress is coming back Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then we go to another Jewish holiday, Yom Kippur. We got 4 days, 4 days before the next holiday to get this right. Let's fix this bill for the average ordinary American. Let's bail out, as Barack Obama says, Wall Street and not Main Street. And in addition to that, we need to put the country first and not the country club first.
Yeah.
And so once I'm sure the country is first, then I'm going to come on home and we can hang out at Izola's. We can hang out at L&G's restaurant on 75th and Exchange, and we can talk about what we did to build a more perfect union for everybody.
Jesse, what's the atmosphere like? I mean, are people grumbling? Are people arguing? I watched a little of this on C-SPAN last night, and you talk about some knockdown, drag-out arguments. What are things like after all of the filibustering? What are things outside of the halls of Congress?
Well, some folks are talking about jumping off of buildings, and that's because they're down here where those of us who ain't got no assets have been for a long time. So I'm going to stand down here at the bottom of the building, and everybody who wants to jump, I'm going to stand right here and try and catch them, but they're going to keep jumping until Miss Mildred Howell and Miss Sandra Bullock get their equity back in their homes.
Yes. Congressman Jesse L. Jackson, Jr., thanks so much for being on Garrard McClendon Live. Hey, we appreciate you. Keep up
my pleasure.
Keep up the good work.
Gerard. Thanks for having me, man.
Keep up the good work. Congress reconsider. Eric January, financial advisor, joins me from Tribune Tower. Eric, welcome to Garrard McClendon Live.
Hello, Gerard. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you coming on the show. You know, Eric, City Hall is announcing the layoffs of jobs. We're seeing foreclosures all throughout Chicagoland. People's credit is just totally jacked up. You know, you're the author of Mo Sense, Money and Economic Sense Based on Natural Laws of Momentum. Talk to me, man.
Sure.
$700 billion bailout. You saw this 3 years ago. Eric, come on, man. You're not a fortune teller. What's up?
Sure. In 2005, you could just actually look at the rental values that people, in 2005, it was obvious that people were overpaying for houses because the price of the housing wasn't, they couldn't even afford it based on the rental values. So people were paying more than they can actually rent their houses out for right now. So in 2005, I started warning all of my clients not to buy a house, that the housing market was soon to collapse.
Oh, man, you know, it's interesting, and I'll let you get your phone back on there. It's interesting because I want to go over the definition of subprime loan, a type of loan that is offered at a rate above prime to individuals who do not qualify for prime rate loans. Quite often, subprime borrowers are often turned away from traditional lenders because of their low credit rating. Subprime loans tend to have a higher interest rate than the prime rate offered on traditional loans. So now give me first of all, let's start with the advantages of a subprime loan, because they're not all bad.
Sure. What I like to do is explain. They have the difference between subprime and prime loans. The way that I learned it, I used to be in the mortgage industry, is the difference between conventional and conforming and non-conforming loans. Loans that conform to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac standards, and loans that didn't conform to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac standards. And loans that did not conform to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac standards, where a person had a 28 to 38% debt-to-income ratio, those were all considered non-conforming or subprime loans.
Yeah.
Well, after 2000, 2000 and after 2001, when the trade towers and the economy went into a slight recession after the internet bubble burst, they started becoming real generous with loans. And in fact, President Bush directed the Federal Reserve and other people to actually increase the amount of loans that were available in the economy. And I'll never forget the quote where he said it, so that interest can be added to the economy.
Wow.
So what's happened is that the bankers have followed his dictates and increased the amount of money that people had available to get loans, and they lowered the standards.
Oh, see, lowering standards. See, that's what we want to get to. Hey, Eric, I'm going to some phone calls.
Sure.
Corliss, thank you for calling Garrard McClendon Live. What's your comment?
Hi, good evening. My comment is that I really am glad to see, first of all, Congressman Jackson speak up and put a name to the people who are affected by this. It's not the boogeyman. It's not the evil people. We don't write loan programs. We don't create loan programs. We go in like you go to a doctor. You don't go to a doctor and say, I need you to operate on my third vertebrae. You go in and say, my back hurts.
Right.
And he tells you what your problem is.
Yeah.
So when you boogeyman the minorities, and if you use words like Neil Cavuto and say the subprime problem is due to lending to minorities and other risky people, we should be outraged. We should be outraged.
Wow, Corliss, thank you for your call. Hey, Eric,
Sure.
Corliss is talking about coded language, man. And
Sure.
I've been seeing a lot of this on a lot of the financial shows. I've been seeing it on conservative and liberal television.
Sure.
Is Corliss right?
Isn't it similar to how a victim that somebody that raped somebody typically accuses the victim, or she tempted me, or she did ever, she led me on? Well, it's the same thing with these loans.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got lenders that put these programs out there, and people took advantage of it. They were looking for an opportunity to get out of renting an apartment to pursuing what they call the American dream of home ownership.
Wow.
So you can't necessarily blame them. The lenders had these unsound programs, and people took advantage of it. And granted, people are responsible for their actions, and I believe that people need to be held accountable for their actions. But at the same time, if the lenders had acted responsibly and not created programs that were totally irrational to begin with, we wouldn't be in this mess.
Oh, man, Eric, thanks, man. It's about greed. It looks like it's greed in America. Is it fair to bail out Wall Street when low and middle income families are struggling with $4 per gallon gas? Call me.
And the consequences will grow worse each day if we do not act.
Oh, come on. You know you can't believe George W. Bush. George Bush is full of it. Hey, he's a president. He's only got 3 months left. He's out of there. He doesn't care about the United States. 630-575-TALK is the number. Our credit cards, mortgages, and gas prices killing you. We're going to the phones right now. I got Eric January with me, but Eric, I'm going to William. William, thank you for calling Garrard McClendon Live. What's your comment?
Well, I got something I got to say. I mean, it's happening everywhere. You got Orland Park, you got South Side, West Side. I work with those private institutions doing inspections. I'm literally doing thousands of these things monthly. You got foreclosures all over the place. Places boarded up. In some of these areas, they can't board up in the front, so you don't know, but those houses are vacant. So everybody's feeling part of the crunch. I almost got to agree with Junior. He's just about right. Yeah, I mean, you got to protect some of these people. You got somebody step up to the plate to make it happen.
That's for real. William, thanks for the call. We appreciate that. I'm going to Demi. Demi, how are you? Welcome to Garrard McClendon Live. What's your comment?
I'm fine. Good evening.
Hi.
Love the show.
Thank you.
You know what? It's like you almost really don't know what to say. I mean, it's just so much stuff that's going on, and the root of all of it is greed. I mean, at every angle, even the story that Jesse Jackson Jr. was, telling us about the lady who made lose her house to foreclosure. Whoever she went and sat in front of, they did not sit down and explain everything to her and explain, if you do this, this may happen. I mean, and it's just a shame, and I'm sure, again, that had to do somehow with greed, with money. So, again, it's just like so much stuff happening, you just don't even know what to say. And hopefully we'll come through this, and maybe people's conscience will be awakened, and they'll think about the choices they make, because these choices is affecting millions of people because of that greed. For a handful or a group of people, it's affecting thousands and thousands of people while they just keep going on with their lives. Well. And it's just selfishness. It's a level of selfishness and greed that has led to this.
Hey, Demi, thank you for your call. I agree with you, because it's like when it hurts the lower class, nobody cares. But when it starts hurting people up top, we have a crisis. We need a bailout. I'm going to Rich. Rich, Thanks for calling Garrard McClendon Live. Talk to me.
Yeah, my name's Rich, and I'm calling about the crisis situation.
Yes, sir.
And 3 months ago, President Bush and Senator McCain were saying how there was no economic problems in the United States, that we were on track, that business was good. Now today the bottom is falling out, where our economy is in danger of collapse. And you know, I mean, this is something that has been coming, and it will get worse, because it's just giving people $700 billion to bail themselves out. They didn't take care of what they had, and now we're in the trouble. You give them $700 billion more, all they were going to do was just party on some more. Jesse Jackson, the Reverend Jesse Jackson in the Sun-Times this morning was talking about how we need jobs, how we need a base in the country that we can build off of, instead of just, you know, not taking care of what we've got. We've given away our industry. We've given away, you know, good quality jobs. I got to call somebody from a foreign country about my mortgage.
Yeah.
You know, outrageous, ridiculous.
Rich, thanks for the call, man. We appreciate you. Eric, hold tight, man. I got to go to break. Hey, do you blame the market or the government for this crisis? Where do we go from here, United States of America? Garrard McClendon Live continues 2 minutes. Hey, Eric, January, talk to me quickly. Then I'm going to take 2 quick phone calls.
Sure.
$700 billion crisis, man, in a nutshell.
Sure. In a nutshell, we should not be passing this piece of legislation that's creating a moral hazard. It's encouraging bankers to continue doing the same thing. Their lending practices need to be reconsidered. Fractional reserve accounting is not a sound business model. There are so many other things that we need to consider. And then also, when you look at the Constitution, it clearly says that we're supposed to pass laws that are good for the general welfare of society. This is specific welfare. And people are benefiting. The market is working. Housing prices are moving to a natural level where people can actually afford them without going into 30 years, 40 years of debt. And this is only going to perpetuate inflation. It's going to perpetuate higher prices and more unaffordability and more dependency on government. And we need to address that.
Let me get 1 or 2 more phone calls in. Vince,
sure.
Make your comment quick, Vince. You're on Garrard McClendon Live.
Hey, how you doing?
Hello.
Yeah, you know, I just wanted, you know what, Eric's right about this whole thing. Well, first of all, we have to have accountability from the government. The Wall Street is just about pure unadulterated greed.
Yeah.
And then we got the oil companies to thank, too, because, you know, unfortunately, the oil companies, we need that oil. It drives everything in this country, from food to the gas to you name it. That's where the problems are. And then when you talk about these substandard loans where people are tight with money, you add that cost, they're done.
That's right. Hey,
they're done.
Thanks for the call, Vince. Appreciate that. Let me go to Gene. Gene, make it quick. What's your comment?
That I blame all of our senators and representatives, both Republicans and Democrats, about this. That this is a problem that they should have seen a while ago. Your financial advisor that you have now saying he saw this several years ago.
That's right,
Gene. We have people on committees, and they should have seen this. I blame them all.
I blame them all too, Gene. Thanks for the phone call. Wow.
Sure.
You know, Eric, thanks so much, man, for being on the show. We appreciate you. MoSense.com is the website. Thanks for being on Garrard McClendon Live, Eric.
Thank you so much.
Thanks to my guest, Eric January from MoSense.com and Congressman Jesse Jackson. We are in crisis, but we now can pause to think of those who were struggling day to day before the stock market went south. Our lives become so comfortable that we forget to appreciate a good meal, a warm bed, family, and friends. The financial bear has arrived and the bull has left the building. But this doesn't mean we should give up. Literature professor Alexis DeVoe once told me, try these elbow rooms on for size, meaning change the furniture around in your home and you will have a brand new house. Perspective is everything. That's Garrard McClendon Live for tonight. Keep your head up and always be encouraged.
Ask or ask, Donda's rules, suit shoes. McClendon Report